How you doing? We are looking at quite a short scene today, actually, and we're very near that kind of tipping point of Act 3, where it all starts to hit the fan. And let's go. What we need to know about this one from the start is that it's a scene of hyperbolic, emotive, and impulsivity. Okay, it's emotive language and it's full of impulsion. We're learning quite a bit about the nurse and about Juliet in this scene. And obviously, we've just had the scene where she has kind of made the deal with Romeo, the plan. Basically, this is the point where she comes back and tells Juliet, but she decides to have a bit of fun with it before kind of directly telling her. So we start off with the clock striking 9, and Juliet is panicking. Okay? We're starting to really see her panic that, hang on, she said she'd be back in half an hour. Where is she? What's going on? Now, we can probably guess that she's kind of more concerned about not hearing from Romeo than not hearing from the nurse. I don't really think this is an element of concern. I think it's more that I asked you to go and I want to know. So we get a whole part here about kind of how she's kind of internally conflicted about what's going on. What if she can't meet him? Oh, that's not so. That can't be true. Yeah, she'd be pacing, she'd be walking around. But obviously, again, very little, what a bit Scottish there. Very little stage directions. They're few and far between for Shakespeare. And we have to kind of infer from the language, but you can tell that she's struggling with this. Now, as we go down, we see a kind of a continuation of this. And, she talks about it's been 3 hours now. And she's still not coming. She said she'd be half an hour. So we're kind of maybe understanding a bit, oh, hang on, it's been quite a long time now. And why has she been so long? Because she wasn't held up that much by Romeo. So why is she being a bit late? We're unsure as well. Just before she walks in, she's kind of reduces it to age. But old folks, many feign as they were dead. So a lot of them act as if they were dead. There's that kind of comedic simile there. Many feign as they were dead. They walk as if they're already dead. They're so slow. Then we get this asyndetic list. Unwieldy, slow, heavy, pale as lead. Okay? So she's trying to search for this reason. She's trying to search for some understanding. I think her being ignorant and not knowing, kind of living in ignorance for her is not bliss. She wants to know. She wants to know why and know the answer. I think something else as well, before the nurse comes in, I want to mention is that Shakespeare is showing us who these two characters trust the most. So we've just had the scene wherein Romeo talks to the friar because he trusts him to kind of keep the secret and to marry them and kind of keep everything under wraps. And then also we get a similar scene between a younger person and someone of an older generation. Okay? Having that kind of bonding time and talking about what's happened. Okay? So we're seeing Shakespeare's telling us and showing us who Romeo and Juliet each trust the most in the world beside each other. Okay? Now, the generational divide is an important point to think about. So the young and the old in Romeo and Juliet is a key difference to definitely recognize. So when you're making notes and stuff, don't just kind of think about, oh, they're a Montague, oh, they're a Capulet, oh, that's the prince. Don't just do it in sections like that. Think about age, yeah? Think about gender, how do the males react compared to the females, yeah? Because loads of different aspects of Romeo and Juliet are kind of from different angles can be seen in different perspectives. And you want to start thinking about all the different ones you can whilst I'm dancing like an idiot. So then the nurse enters and we see a juxtaposition. We see a juxtaposition between the way that she talks about the nurse just before she enters and just after she enters. Oh, she comes, oh, honey nurse. Yeah, there's positive language, semantic field of positivity and kind of a familial love. What news? Hast thou met him? Send thy man away. So she sends Peter away. So, oh God, she comes. Oh, honey nurse, what news? Yeah, she's exclaiming. She's genuinely excited to see her. But again, we're questioning whether it's because the nurse has been missing for 3 hours and she doesn't know where she was, or if she just wanted to hear from her love, from Romeo. Okay? Now we get a lot of exclamations in there and kind of the emphatic and complimentary language that we get from Juliet about the nurse. Oh, honey nurse. But it goes straight to the point. Look, what news? She wants to know straight away what's going on. So Peter goes out and Juliet is concerned because the nurse hasn't come bounding in and kind of jumping around, and she's not sure, and she seems to look sad. Why lookest thou sad? Though news be sad, yet tell them merrily. We're seeing a real vulnerability here from Juliet. Even if the news is sad, can you tell it in a positive way? Because I don't know if I can cope with being let down in both the language and the way it's said. Yeah? She needs to be kind of pacified in some way. She needs to be soothed in some way and kind of mitigate the potency of what she thinks the nurse is about to say. Okay? So we've got a bit of character development there. I say a bit, we've got quite a bit of character development there. And Juliet is showing herself as someone who is, you know, she has seemed emotionally strong prior. You know, in the balcony scene, she was very stern, very strong. But maybe when it comes down to it, maybe the person that she trusts the most is seeing the true her, or is the one that Romeo met. Is that the true Juliet? Now, whenever this is done live, it's always quite funny, I think. It's one of my favourite little kind of duo scenes that you see live. The nurse is teasing Juliet, okay? So she's teasing Juliet that, oh, me back. Hang on, I will tell you, but just let me have a drink. Oh god, oh what a hot day, blimey! Oh god, and she's doing all this kind of melodramatic actions, and she's teasing Juliet because she knows Juliet is so wanting to do it. Now think about what that says about their relationship. That this is a really strong, comfortable relationship. The nurse is comfortable doing this, even though she is hired to be there. She's not her mother. She is paid to be there. She is hired to do a job. And yet, she's happy to joke with her, to tease her, to kind of to play with her emotions a little bit. Now, I've always seen this scene as well, though, as having darker undertones. I think it's pragmatically pretty dark. We know that Act 3 is coming up. And we know that there is the narrative arc that we see. And we know that Act 3 is where it starts to hit the fan. And we're one scene away from Act 3. We've got this scene and then another really short one. And then it's Act 3. And that's when it goes downhill. This is possibly the last time we're going to see Juliet happy. Or one of the last times. Yeah? We know that. She does not. Yeah? And it sets this kind of strange, darker dramatic irony that we as an audience, we know it's not going to end well. Yeah? That the original name was The Most Lamentable Tragedy of Romeo and Juliet. The audience would have known this was a tragedy. They would have known it doesn't end well. And also, from the prologue, star-crossed lovers take their life. So, we're kind of watching this with a half smile almost. It's kind of like, this is quite a dark example, and I do apologise, but it's kind of like when you see those videos that people post about kind of a dog having its last lovely day. They take it to the park, they give it its favourite food, and, you know, it's got some kind of illness where it's going to be put down the day, and there's no kind of stopping it because it's in pain. But they give it that kind of great, lovely last day. You watch the video, and yes, it's lovely and it's happy, but you know something bad's happening, and you know it's going to happen. Like, it's not going to last forever, this happiness. And there's that kind of darker undertone to this scene. That yes, this is all lovely and it's all joking, it's all nice, but it's going to get worse. And not just kind of bad, but awful, tragic. I also think there's a bit of a darker undertone in terms of the nurse's role here. Again, she's paid to be there, and as we learned earlier, she lost her own child. She lost Susan. And the nurse is seeing Juliet going through kind of the toils of romance and love and meeting boys and all this kind of stuff. And she's loving it. And she's getting every little moment she can. She's teasing her. Oh, you know, there's no doubt that if Susan was still alive, she'd be doing this with Susan as well. Teasing her about boys and, oh, don't you look pretty like a young woman now? All this, you know, this kind of relationship that they have. And I think, again, because of the dramatic irony, there's this darker undertone that Shakespeare's setting us up. Yeah, he's setting us up for a really big drop, because the first scene in Act 3 goes right down, and Act 3 just gets worse and worse and worse for both Romeo and Juliet. So think about it holistically, yeah? You always want to be zooming out with these ideas. Holistically think, even these really, really short scenes that don't seem significant and they just seem like nothing, there is loads to talk about if you look for it and think about it. Okay, so this kind of backward and forward keeps going, you know. She keeps saying, well, can you please just tell me what did Romeo say? What did my love say? And she's still going, oh, can't you see I'm out of breath? Just leave it, would you? Hang on. Give me a minute. Yeah? And obviously, you know, Juliet's not kind of catching on with what's being done to her. Now, we get to this point, and the nurse says, you've made a simple choice. You know not how to choose a man. She's now teasing him about Romeo. Romeo, no, not he. Though his face be better than any man's. So we're learning Romeo is quite the dashing young man. He is clearly handsome, you know, he's athletic, his leg excels all in hand and foot and body. So he's not, you know, he's not just some slob that she's falling in love with. He's kind of stereotypically attractive and kind of, you know, athletic and brave and strong and all this kind of stuff. She says, though, that he is not a flower of courtesy, but I'll warrant him as gentle as a lamb. So he's not the most courteous person. Now remember what happened. Yeah? I was playing the nurse, and Romeo, Mr. Curtis, wasn't that polite to me. He was still joining in the jokes. He wasn't as harsh as Mercutio. He wasn't kind of calling her a whore and all this kind of stuff. But he wasn't being the nicest. So she says, he's not the flower of courtesy, but I'll warrant him as gentle as a lamb. Now, after it all continues, so it keeps going back and forward, she says, what, have you eaten yet? Kind of this kind of stereotypical mother thing as well. And Juliet's getting more and more frustrated all the way through the scene. You might want to as well pick out some of the quotes that kind of they talk about of the backward and forward of the kind of humour, the relationship between them. You know, Lord, how my head aches is quite a good one, I think. Also, can you not stay a while? That kind of stuff. Jesus, what haste, I think, is quite a good one as well, just because of we've talked about the impulsivity, and obviously that means that they are not thinking about things. And the nurse kind of mentions it there, that, oh, you're very quick, aren't you? You need to calm down a bit, slow down, whoa, don't rush. But obviously that's kind of what that would actually save them all. So I think that's an interesting one to talk about. How my bones ache is a good one as well. So get a few of those down just to kind of reference what's going on, and kind of, again, the relationship between, one, the fact that it's an older and a younger generation, and two, the fact that it's this kind of mother, this matriarch figure in Juliet's life, not the actual matriarch, and then Juliet. So then Juliet is frankly sick of it, okay? She says, sweet, sweet, sweet nurse, tell me, what says my love? Okay, so we get the triple repetition there of sweet. Yeah, again, those kind of empty adjectives that we saw earlier in Oh Honey Nurse, yeah? So these complimentary adjectives being thrown at her to try and just chip away at this kind of harsh exterior that she's seeing in terms of not giving any information about Romeo. Tell me, what says my love? Yeah? So we've got that imperative syntax there as well. Tell me, what says my love? And she's also calling him my love. She's also declaring right then and there that she loves him. I think as well as a foreshadowing of the independence that she has later. She takes a lot of independent actions. And actually, Juliet is quite clever later on. You know, especially towards the end of Act 3, she puts on a narrative for her family, and then has a completely different narrative with Romeo to try and play both sides so that she gets what she wants. Okay? And I think this is one of the first times we really see kind of a hint of direct relation between that. Now it continues on, and eventually the nurse agrees to tell her. And she says, have you got leave to go to Shriftigate? Have you got permission to go to confession? She says, I have. And this is where the plan comes in. So go to Friar Lawrence's cell. There stays a husband to make you a wife. That's all she wanted to hear. That's it. That's all she had to say. That one little bit there. There stays a husband to make you a wife. Okay? Today as well. Go today. You're going to get married today. You need to go. Okay? Now, obviously she starts blushing. She starts being so pale and nervous and anxious, and she becomes happy again. And also the plan about the ladder, so that again they can consummate the marriage once they are married. And that's actually it for this one. It's quite a short scene, and as you'll see, the next scene is also very, very short too. So, any questions, let me know, and I'll see you soon. Stay safe. Bye!